Morning, folks. Just wanted to touch base with you right quick. We're getting ready. We're down to the last 2 days of getting everything ready to go to the mountains. We're leaving, as you know, on November the 2nd at 5 a.m. from the Midway Wesleyan Church. Folks, you have no idea. We have emptied this fellowship hall 3 times. And now we have all of the stuff on an 18-wheeler, and we have the remaining part of it on a covered trailer that's slammed full. However, we still have the stuff that you saw in the back room and stuff that's still in the church basement. And we still have people that are planning on delivering to us that's we know about and so forth. But without the donations and things that you've sent, this would not be possible. And all the churches involved are greatly appreciative of all you folks have done out there. And I had a pastor yesterday drive in from Salisbury, North Carolina, and he was telling me, he said, I'd hate to think that I was at a church that hadn't done anything. He said, it didn't matter where it was at in the United States. It hadn't done anything, I'd be questioning it, because the damage and devastation up there is unparalleled to anything we've ever had in the United States. People just don't realize what's happened. I mean, you expect hurricanes and stuff in Florida and around the Gulf Coast area from Texas all the way to Florida. You expect it in the Atlantic from the Keys all the way up to New Jersey. We've had hurricanes up in that part. They have nor'easters up in New England area. But whoever heard of a hurricane in the mountains and areas of North Carolina and eastern Tennessee, and with that 30 plus inches of rain, and mudslides that start at the elevations of near 4,500 feet and work their way down to 2,000 feet, and some of them reach speeds of 40 miles an hour. So you're talking about a tsunami of mud coming down through there, folks, when this stuff started, and it came from the top of the mountains, and all that rain, and as the creeks and the stuff gathered all that water and started pushing all them sticks and logs and cleaning the creeks out themselves, and then the soggy ground from the prior week before the hurricane of that 9 inches, and all of the lakes were full around there. They just didn't have nowhere for the water to go. And once the water started coming about to breach the dams, they had to open up the floodgates wide open, and that didn't help none a bit. And it started increasing the amount of flow down the rivers, and it picked up steam, and by the time it got down into locations like Bat Cave and Swannanoa and Chimney Rock, you had a tsunami of mud come through, folks. You may have seen some of it on YouTube, people standing on their decks and looking, coming down the gorge through there was just a wall of mud coming at 40, 50 miles an hour, pushing all that stuff. And geologists have said there's 600 miles of debris up in the mountains. And as all these logs and stuff is pushed up into structures and bridges, and then all that silt and mud packs in behind all of that stuff, you can see why there's people missing. I still saw yesterday that there's only 100 people, they say, on the body count. Well, folks, I can tell you that's way off, way off. I know from talking with sheriff's deputies and stuff in 2 of the counties, there was 70 bodies tagged in Lake Lure, and they quit counting. That was in Lake Lure alone. So they're downplaying all this, folks. Don't know why they're doing so, but so far, there's been no help to these folks except by the churches. The state of North Carolina, they finally signed It's been passed for quite a while, but they finally signed to release quite a bit of money to help rebuild the infrastructure. But that ain't helping the people. These people's going to be without power for anywhere from 6 months to a year. And the reason is all these parts that replace all these transformers and things are made in China. They're made overseas. We don't have the capability anymore of being able to produce our own stuff. What's going to happen if we get attacked, folks? Just think about that. We can't even restore our own power because we're having to rely on this stuff being made outside the United States. We need all this stuff brought back and made in the United States, and where people in the United States can have a job. I'm about to get off on something I don't need to be getting off on. We ain't but just a few days from the election, and I hope every one of you go out and vote and keep all this stuff in mind of what's took place and the reaction that's taken place from the government, which has been absolutely no help to the people in the mountains. And I'm just going to stop right there because I'm going to get wound up and I don't need to put anything in this but the Lord's work. But folks, just think about what's happened with all this debris and wiping out all this stuff, and we've got people right now living in tents, living in outbuildings in their barn, their pole barns, their sheds, under tarps. Some of them living in the structures that they have that's full of mud and they're living on the second floor. Some of them's living in the structure that's completely unsafe to live in, with no power, no running water, no heat. But thanks to all of your donations, we have 60 Little Buddy, Big Buddy, and Coleman camping heaters going to the mountains. There's 5 more coming in today that the local hardware store is going to have. So we're going to get those. Other churches that are going with us have some in store. So we know the number is going to be around 70 plus. So there's going to be 70 families, folks, that you've helped to provide warmth for. 70. And people have really thought about the donations they were sending. I'm going to tell you. They really thought about what it would be like. I mean, I can see them going into camping stores and just looking. Now, if I was living off the grid and I didn't have these things we take for granted, what would I need? Somebody sent 2 cases. 2 different people sent 2 cases of cast iron cook stuff. That's some good thinking. Then we had somebody that donated and shipped in coffee pots, the old-timey percolator coffee pots that you use in camping, that you can put your coffee grounds in and sit there in the hot coals and let it percolate. Give them something hot to drink when it's cold. And then we had some people I thought was pretty ingenious, was worried about them being able to take a bath and stuff and so forth, and in the cold weather. Well, you know, the Lord plans in advance. Nothing catches him off surprise. And somebody sent in these little old tiny packets that fold out, and they're these silver blankets, and they pull in the heat from the sun. So it's kind of like what they use on Mount Everest, folks. Somebody sent these type of blankets, and it captures the solar energy from the sun and heats it so that somebody laying under it can get warm. Well, another fella up in Pilot Mountain that owns KW Trailers and Barns told me he made something that would help with their situation of taking a bath. And I was talking with him, and let me show you what he did. I don't know how much research he done or if he just, the Lord laid it on him and give him the idea. But he took some pump-up sprayers and he went to Advance or somewhere and got some black spray paint, and he painted all of them black. Well, you can fill these things up with water, folks, and set them in the sun, or you could set them under those silver blankets that somebody else has provided. Fill these up with water, folks, and let them heat up, either by the sunshine out by the open field. Don't know how hot that would get in the winter time, but under one of those blankets, this thing would heat up pretty good. And then all they need to do is, I don't have the hose attached, but you could take some rope that somebody else has provided and hang it up on a tree limb. And then you've got, it ain't much, folks, but it's something. You know, the old saying is, you can't be everywhere, but you need to be somewhere. 2 gallons. That's enough to help them kind of clean up a little bit, wash their hands, or whatever. But I thought he went to a lot of trouble, folks, doing all this. I don't know where he come up with the idea, but I asked him what KW stood for in his business name. He said that stands for the King's Will. So there you go. King's Will, KW Trailers and Barns. Who would have ever thought that? But he did. He brought these down here from Pilot Mountain, North Carolina. He had him and his buddy had a whole trailer full of stuff. A lot of thought went into these things that people did, like this, cast iron, the coffee pots, these solar type heat absorption blankets. And then we got tons and tons of winter clothes. That tractor trailer we showed you in previous videos, we got about 8 feet left in that. That's going to be just enough to get what we got in the basement of the church. And what we got back here, that should fill it up. And then we've got another covered trailer we filled yesterday. We filled it up with all the heaters and all these propane tanks. People sent in 20 and 30 pound propane tanks. And then the donations of money that came in, we went in and bought more heaters, hoses, filled the propane tanks, and supplying the Bethel Church with money, much needed money, to help Brother Bud up there that's been called to transport this stuff all over the mountains. You know, you can't run a big diesel truck pulling a trailer with this kind of stuff all up in the hills for free. So we're gonna help him. He's got a lot of connections in the mountains helping Brother Tim. Somebody's got to be at the church to help coordinate all this stuff and where it's going, and somebody's got to be doing the running. And Brother Bud's running all over the mountains. Canton, Swannanoa, Bat Cave, Black Mountain, Avery County, Yancey County, Mitchell County, all up and down through there. And you know how these old single lane, 2-lane mountain roads are. A lot of turning, switching up and down. So this will help. Some of this is going to help with that. There's a lot of expenses behind the scenes. We talked a little bit about what the preachers are doing up there behind the scenes, and what the preachers are doing here that's running all this stuff down here away from the devastated area to help gather stuff for these families. Something that every church in the United States ought to be helping. I'd hope, folks, if you're way off somewhere and your church isn't doing anything, I encourage you to push them to do something. You can't do everything, but do something. We got to help these families rebuild these houses. And you know, if all the churches in the United States would pitch in and call Central Global Methodist Church in Asheboro. Give them a call and see about helping a family. Here's their number, 336-629-1425. Get involved, folks. We've got 4 families that need help, and we know there's a lot more. We're going through the process just to make sure that these people are not going to qualify for any kind of federal money. They've got a work history. They've never asked the government for nothing. They work and pay their own way. But they're not going to get anything out of their insurance company either. They've already been denied. So think about it, folks. If you're sitting there and your church hadn't done anything, I'm going to urge you to be the one to speak up. These families are going to need help. You know, a lot of these folks that lost these houses has got a mortgage on a house that's no longer there. They looking at bankruptcy, folks. Then how are they going to be able to afford to build? They'll not be able to. So we got to step in, folks, and stand in the gap for them. I urge you to contact Central Global Methodist Church in Asheboro. Give them a call, 336-629-1425. They're located at 300 South Main Street, Asheboro, North Carolina, 27203. You can send a check to that address. These folks are going to need help. It ain't going to come by way of the government. It ain't going to come by way of the insurance company. It's going to come by way of the fellow Americans. And that's the only place. They're not going to get nothing out of Foxtrot Echo Mike Alpha. I've heard of several people that's filled out that application to get $750 and they were denied. I've not heard of one. There may be one and I just ain't aware of it. I've not heard of one being accepted to even get that money. Now they're going to tell you on mainstream propaganda media news that they're doing all these great things. But from what I'm hearing, they have nothing to hand out anymore because people wised up. They quit sending their goods into anything that was city, county, state, or federally funded because they was coming in and taking it and then making it look like they were the ones handing it out. Well, they have nothing to hand out anymore, folks, because people wised up, running through the churches. So now, if you find a Foxtrot Echo Mike Alpha person or location, more than likely, from what I'm hearing, they're closed. There's nobody there. If they put up a on-site location tent, there's nobody there. They've had the government turn their backs on them, folks, and we as fellow Americans need to stand in the gap for them, help them out. The program is being run at Central Global Methodist in Asheboro. It's called Helping Hands for a Family. Give them a call. Give them a call. Help them out, folks. There's some things planning I'm going to talk to you about for anybody that's within reasonable driving range. There's going to be something come up in Asheboro in about 2 weeks. And all that stuff's going to be directed toward the folks in the mountains. I'll reveal that in another video. But we got to help these folks. I appreciate you joining us this morning. Just wanted to let you know what's kind of going on. We're going to know a whole lot more come Saturday when we get up there. We're going to know what the next phase is going to entail, about what supplies may be needed. But I can tell you now that it's probably going to focus on the rebuilding phase. And these folks can't rebuild if they ain't got no help, because the insurance companies ain't going to help them, the government ain't going to help them, and they own their own. So we got to help them. So if your church ain't doing anything, be the megaphone and push it to help these people. They need it. They need it. I probably won't make another video, folks, till Friday night or so when we doing our final load up, if I get time. But we'll definitely do one Saturday when we arrive. I appreciate you joining us. I hope you'll share this video. We need this thing to get out so that we can help these families up in the mountains and help them to get back on their feet. Because otherwise, they ain't going to do it. There's a huge lack of housing in the mountains. You've probably seen the stuff where Cabins for Christ is trying to build these small outbuildings and turn them into tiny homes and things to try to get these people out of tents, because that winter's going to be brutal, folks. So check out that, Cabins for Christ. That's going to get them temporary stuff. But we're doing the best we can with what we've got and what we're working with. But you know, these outbuildings can't get into these locations if the bridges are out, the roads are out. They can't get anything in there other than tote it in by hand and try to construct it on site. And that's difficult in a lot of places, folks. You can't just get a vehicle, a side-by-side up in there. A lot of locations is foot traffic and four-wheelers. Maybe a side-by-side. But this stuff has been traveled up and down so much, these old places that the Cajun Navy went in and cut trails to get four-wheelers and stuff up into the mountains. One good rain, folks, and that's going to be a mudslide. It's going to expose all the tree roots, make it so slick you won't even be able to walk up in there. Thankfully, we've not had any rain since this hurricane. We've only had one cold snap. And they've had that one up there that was about 3 days that week, and then it snowed that one time in the higher elevations. And that's enabled us, luckily they've had fairly decent warm weather at night up there. Not been too cold. And it's given us time to be able to get our supplies to them. And we're not the only ones. There's lots of churches all over North Carolina and Virginia and South Carolina and Tennessee that's helping. But folks, we need the rest of the United States churches. If every church would step up and sponsor a family or send money a month to help these families, who would care about insurance or the government? We won't need them. We ain't going to have the support from them anyway. So, be that megaphone for your church. Start a drive to help a family. 336-629-1425. And we can get you more information. You may have to leave a message because the phone lines are pretty heavy. We've had a phone line put in just to dedicate for this. Some people say they'll give $25 a month. Well, that's fine. And if it ain't but $5, just think if $5 a month come in from people. That adds up, folks. It adds up. It ain't the amount, it's the numbers that are participating. So just think about that. You got a lot of little children living in tents out here because their houses are ruined. If there's anything left on some of them, they're going to have to be bulldozed. And there's a mortgage hanging with that. So there's going to be work teams and things goes in up there. That's going to be coming, folks. If you've got a church that's interested in that, you need to make that known. Need to make that known. But we're gonna see if we can get a church that's going to be just in charge of work teams. Just in charge of work teams, just for the work teams. But we got to have money to come in for these families to be able to get them out of the situation they're in, and then funnel the money into the families so that they can rebuild. I appreciate you joining us this morning. Be that megaphone at your church if your church isn't involved in anything like this. We need to help these people get on their feet. Y'all have a blessed day.